Yo guys, what is good? Welcome back on the Uncle Sharma channel. You know what time it is. After we kicked Arsenal's ass, it's time for Napoli, the game that we've all been waiting for. Inzaghi clearly was waiting for. The players were waiting for. Serie A get that overtake on Antonio Conte's Napoli. Of course, it's the derby of Lukaku and Antonio Conte, the derby of Zielinski now as well. It's a few interesting storylines within this first time we are facing against Conte since he left us. And not the first time we're facing against Lukaku, of course. We taught Lukaku a lesson last time he faced us with Roma. And I'm expecting and hoping for the same thing again. But Zielinski, shouts out to Nerazzurri Society, who tweeted his quick interview where he talked about, after the Arsenal game, about this Napoli game. I spent 8 fantastic years with Napoli. Now I'm an Inter player. I will give my all to win. But if I score a goal, I won't celebrate. And, for a guy who spent 8 years there, that's what I expect. And I also expect some likes from you guys. So before we get into the full preview and everything, leave a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Um, you know, quick reflection on the Arsenal game. I wasn't able to do the full post-match reaction with you guys. Just a quick recorded one from my car. It was a good performance. It was, and of course we wanted it. We wanted it real bad because of all the Twitter beef that was going on over the past years. It was so sweet, and I watched it amongst Arsenal fans as well. The friends that went there to the pub to watch it with, they were Arsenal fans, and around there were other Arsenal fans. So it was nice to be, just feeling that disappointment in real life as well. But the performance, was, watching the highlights and then looking back on it, it was good. Of course, they got the job done, especially with such a high level of rotation, 5 players, 6 players, if you take into Acerbi as well. When you take into all of that into account, it's fantastic. Another clean sheet, record-setting clean sheet for Inter, 4 in a row. But on reflection, some of the yeah, Arsenal didn't have massive chances, but if Bisek, that block Bisek made, it went between his legs, a few centimeters to the other side, and it could have been a goal. We were, you know, playing with fire a little bit, but Arsenal just didn't create much, and you can see that here. Great tweet here from Michele De Antoni on Twitter, who says, "Find a team who can do both." On the left, you can see Inter seasonal heat map from this season, and you can see, we're all over the pitch and so much activity happening in the opposite side of the pitch, on the right hand side of the pitch, especially focusing on, of course, the left hand side with Di Marco, of course, and Di Marco Bastoni owning that side. Whereas into Arsenal, you can see the heat map completely different. All the action is in the box. Very little happening on the other side, apart from the first probably 15-20 minutes where we started the game off very well. When Dumfries at the crossbar, we created other half chances. But apart from that, not too much afterwards. Surprisingly, more on the right side than the left side, even though with Frattesi and Dumfries, I'm surprised. I guess more of it's coming from Dumfries, Dumfries and Pavard. But which heat map are we expecting tomorrow against Napoli, 7:45 p.m. kickoff? What do you guys think? I think it will be a combination of both of those. One thing I hope that we take from this Arsenal game is the fact that if we do go ahead against Napoli, we don't make the mistake that we did against Juventus. This Inter team can do both. That's why it was so annoying that we let a 4-2 lead slip against Juventus, because Inter, yes, we can do what we do on the left there, but we're also able to do what's on the right there. We did it against Roma. We did it against Arsenal. I have no idea why we weren't able to do it against Juve. So tomorrow, if we do go ahead, Inzaghi, the boys need to know that they can, sit back a bit deeper, absorb pressure, because this team, since the Conte days, we know this team can do it. Conte instilled that mentality into us. Inzaghi was also able to continue it, especially last season. So I'm really, really expecting this team to be more mature when we get into those better situations in terms of goal scoring lines. And this team is very adaptable. We know this team can play Limone ball, amazing football, but at the same time can win it dirty, which you might need to do tomorrow against this Conte team. Well, this Napoli team in general, we have had a good record against them recently, but of course last season They were a pretty atrocious team, mid-table team, literally a mid-table team because they finished 10th, didn't they? Um, Recently, in the last 6 games, we've won 3 times, including the Italian Super Cup in between in Saudi Arabia. Then even away, we smashed them 3-0. But then the Scudetto winning season, even in the Scudetto winning season at home, we beat them 1-0. Remember that Dzeko goal. So at home, not a bad record. Last time round, we drew 1-1 with them. But against Conte's Napoli is going to be completely different. We saw them at the San Siro recently, just a couple of weeks back against Milan. They did very well. But really, it was the first 15, 20 minutes. And then afterwards, after they scored, they kind of sat back. And then Kvara, the second goal was just, individual brilliance and a Magnon mistake, really. They didn't really offer too much, Napoli, in that game. And then the last game, of course, Atalanta completely dismantled them 3-0. Ademola Lookman and Retegi dismantling them. And we saw the chinks in the armor of this Antonio Conte team. That was the first midweek game or first weekend game after a midweek game, and they lost. Now this time around, we of course played Arsenal, but we managed to rest our main guys. So hopefully we are not too tired for this game. But yeah, I think there's been a little bit of overperformance from this Napoli team at the beginning of the season. I don't think McTominay is as good as he has been at the beginning of the season. I don't think, the Rahmani is as good as he has been till now. Di Lorenzo has picked his back form back up, so we know he is a good player, and we know Anguissa is a very good player. Kvara, of course, is a very good player. But Politano, we know his limitations. He's a very hardworking player. So, it's a good team, and I was expecting them to challenge, especially with 1 game a week, but not that good as they have been till now. Anyway, Inter's team for tomorrow looks like it's back to what we would say, and what I would say for sure is our strongest starting 11 with Francesco Acerbi back, the guy who we know has pocketed Romelu Lukaku in the past, especially last year when he was at Roma. But surprisingly, I don't know if it's got to do with the contract situation or whatever, but Denzel Dumfries looks to be amongst the starting option. I think it's got to do more, and I've mentioned this on the last few previews, because of Carlos Augusto's injury. Darmian is now seen as, the guy that lets Di Marco have a breather as the left wing back. So that's why I think now it's coincided with that injury and Darmian not being so. If you start Darmian, we know that Inzaghi likes to rotate the wing backs, around the 70th minute. So he wants to keep Darmian as that option, because I don't think Buchanan, even though Buchanan has been part of the squads recently, I don't think he's going to get any minutes. I think the Canada coach recently mentioned that, he's hoping that he might get some minutes, but maybe when he goes off to Canada international break, he might actually get some minutes. I'm surprised actually with Buchanan, he's not got any minutes with the Primavera. Usually, when they're easing guys back in after long-term injuries like TJ's, they usually give them some minutes in the youth team as well. But anyway, happy Dumfries played really well against Arsenal, and it's not like he's played a lot of minutes this season. So I think he should be raring to go back-to-back games. Barella was one of the guys that got to rest for most of the game against Arsenal, so looking forward to potentially big performance from him. Hakan, fantastic man of the match performance against Arsenal as well. Mickey coming back. It would have been nice to see Zielinski start against his old team, but we know Mkhitaryan is Inzaghi's boy. And then up front, back to Lautaro and Thuram. No comments from me. Very strong team, our strongest team. I am very confident to win. Hopefully, Pavard and Dumfries, we know that last year or previous years, we've liked to start Darmian to, accommodate for someone like Kvara, to double up on him, to be a bit more defensively solid. Hopefully, Dumfries improves on his performance against Yildiz, a winger in a similar sort of vein. Not to give Kvara too much space to shoot like he did to Yildiz against Juve. But yeah, that right-hand side should be enough to handle Kvara, and the left-hand side definitely enough to handle Politano or Neres. At the moment, it looks like it's Politano starting for Napoli, but I've also heard rumors that David Neres could start, who's been a super sub for Napoli this year, the signing from Benfica. Brazilian tricky player, so he's definitely one to watch out for as a substitute if he comes on. Apart from that, yeah, we know Lobotka's out, so Billy Gilmore's playing in there. I saw him against Milan and other Napoli games. He is getting accustomed to Serie A. He is a very Lobotka type player, but definitely not very physical. And I would like to see Inter try to press him and try to use some physicality on him. Even though he's a Premier League player, he's not that type of Premier League player. But apart from Billy Gilmore, they have McTominay and Anguissa who can definitely make up for the lack of muscle from Gilmore. Those two are giants in midfield, and of course we know what they're going to try to do. Ball up to Lukaku. Lukaku's going to try to hold it up, try to play off to McTominay, who comes in almost as it almost becomes a 4-2-3-1, really attacking. McTominay almost becomes a second striker, gets into the box. Or Lukaku laying it off to Kvara or Politano coming in as well. So we know, regardless of whether a Conte team is in a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3 or a 4-3-3 as it is here, the patterns of play and the style of play pretty much remains very, very similar. And then, at the back, Buongiorno has been really good. We know he's a fantastic signing that we missed out on, but against Milan, he made two big mistakes that one could have led to a goal for Musa, but he had a brick touch. And then the other one, Morata was offside by a tiny inch. So great defender, but not infallible, especially next to Rahmani. And I don't rate Merit as a world-class goalkeeper. So good team, but should be enough for this Inter team to dispatch at the San Siro. Conte, final closing comments. He obviously spoke about coming back to Inter, nice words, certain effect, returning to Inter where you worked hard, lots of emotions, beautiful effects, so many memories, 2 happy years at Inter, beautiful experience that I carry inside me. So I think, Conte, Lukaku, the two guys coming back to Inter, obviously we know Lukaku, what type of reception he will get, same as he got last year against Roma, probably not as loud and, last year was fresh, the betrayal this year, but he still, I'm sure, will get booed plenty. I think Conte might get mixed. I know there's some Inter fans. I'm also quite kind of angry the way he left us. He kind of left us high and dry after all that stuff kicked off in the summer. A few seasons back. Of course, we landed on our feet with Inzaghi, but still kind of mad. Deep down that this guy just left us at the first sign of difficulty and he could have built something good with his team, but I think he should be received, quite nicely. Like, not obviously how we receive Mourinho and these guys, but he still won us a Scudetto. He built the bricks and the foundations to the Scudetto winning Inter team and the Inter team that we have now. So I think he will be received quite nicely. And then, yeah, his usual glazing that Conte does of opposing teams. Last week he said Atalanta are stronger than us, and this time he's saying Inter are definitely the strongest team. They deserve recognition and credit for recent years. Yeah, they've grown exponentially. You were the one that didn't believe that we would grow. That's why you left. But anyway, we know what he does, but he's also true. We are the strongest team as well. But typical Conte tactics. But anyway, I am confident going into this game. After that Arsenal performance, yes, there might be maybe some, hopefully not too much arrogance and tired legs, but I think we should be able to dispatch this Napoli team. I think it will be a very tight one, though. Definitely not, I mean, I predicted a 0-0 for Juventus game and ended up being a 4-4, but I think this will be like a 1-0, 2-1 to Inter. Lautaro and Thuram with the goals, in my opinion. And maybe on the other side, maybe a Politano or a McTominay goal. You guys let me know in the comments down below your thoughts. Leave a thumbs up.